Hello everyone, it's Ukeme. You're welcome to today's episode of Pages Highlights. We'll be talking about journaling. Yes, journaling. I love to journal. Journaling is basically keeping a record of events that have taken place in your life, and it can be daily, it can be weekly, it can be monthly, it can be yearly, but the entire idea of journaling is that you're keeping a record. Journaling can be done either through digital or having a physical notebook to keep your record. And I would say for me, journaling has been very therapeutic. Like, it's something I do when I feel like my head is full and I just need to let out. I need to release. Most of my journaling eventually becomes like a poem, something I eventually look at and I'll be like, oh, this is nice, this can pass for a poem. So let me read it here. I said, sometimes letting go may seem like the most difficult path to take, even when it's totally obvious that certain things may not be working or serving their purpose anymore in our lives. It feels difficult to just walk away when your expectation is high, when you thought you've gone through the process rightly to see your expectation come to pass. But maybe sometimes letting go is the most faith thing to do. Releasing your desire to keep holding it together until you get it together, and trusting God to bring it complete, whole, and all together for you. One thing is certain: God's plan and purpose will always lead to an expected end. Thank God for what is gone and trust Him for what is to come. Open your heart and mind to the healing power of the Lord. God is with you. Ukeme, you will not fall. Anyways, while journaling, and I got myself to the point where I was, being realistic about my situation, and I was writing that I'm trying to hold this together. And then God leads me to Isaiah chapter 34 verse 16. Say, it's not in your place to hold it together. I would gather it together for you by myself. And for me, the whole holding it together and gathering it together just seems to, make a lot of sense. And should I call it Rema now at that particular point? And I began to realize that yes, it's not in my place to hold this stuff together. I have to let it go and trust God to bring it complete, whole, and all together for me. And how did I, get to this point of releasing? For me, it was through journaling. So in blooming where you're planted, journaling is one of the ways to document your experiences, because as time goes on, one of the ways it helps you is you realize that you're living in some of your answered prayers. Like, sometimes I look at my journal and I look at things I prayed for and I see that, oh, I actually prayed for these things and they've been answered. I'm having another thing to pray about now. So it helps you to be more appreciative of your journey and how God has led you through. It helps you to see how God has blessed you, to keep a track record of the things that God has done in your life. Now let me share something I do in form of journaling as well. Again, when it's time for my birthday, I become intentional about praising God and being appreciative of Him. I started it when I was about to turn 27, and then it felt like I had a lot of unanswered prayers, and I told myself, instead of dwelling in some of the things that God has not done, I'll just be intentional about journaling a lot of things that God has done for me. It's finding 27 reasons and being intentional about documenting them. Like, God has been good to me in this aspect of my life. The psalmist said that teach us to number our days and apply our hearts to wisdom. Journaling is one of the ways you apply your heart to wisdom, because you decide to be intentional about documenting your experience. So maybe you're in a situation where you're feeling like, I'm stuck here. How can I bloom where I have been planted? I've been in this situation for a while, and okay, you're saying I should just pick up my pen and be journaling. My experiences have been terrible. What are you saying? And I'm like, no, you can pick up your pen. You can journal, you can find the reason. In short, just start with explaining how you feel about your situation and writing it down. The next thing I want to talk about is what are the things you can journal about. I think I may have mentioned it somewhere along the line. You can have a prayer journal. It's so good to have a prayer journal. For me, when I journal my prayer, I feel like I'm just pouring my heart to God, like I'm just telling him exactly how it is. Start by having a notepad, and you can tag it, this is my prayer journal. It's a place you can go to unwind. And for me, I begin with dear God sometimes, and I'm like, dear God, as though I was writing a letter to God. And you can just go on and on. Today, even though I still prefer doing it physically and having a physical notebook, the digital channels are great in helping you do this. If you have the U Bible app, which I do, and I can document your prayers, and one of the interesting things about that prayer journal is it gives you a space to go back to the journal and look at the answered prayers. So I think for me, there was the time I stumbled on a prayer I made in 2021, how I was surrendering everything to God and telling him that regardless of how the year goes, he should just give me peace in my heart and all of that. And I stumbled upon it and realized that even though I had begun the year with some level of fear, that ended up being one of my best years yet. You can have a prayer journal, you can have a financial journal, you can journal your expenses. Like you're someone who do not keep track of your spending, having like a financial journal can help keeping track of your spending. That way you can see where your money is going to and see what is taking a lot of your money. That aside, you can just have a general journal where you pour out your mind. Now, how often should you journal? When I do my Bible study and I'm reading my Bible, I'm going through my devotional, I take a pen and I write down what I'm learning. And then for the prayer journal, most times I just pick the journal and I write my prayer. But I don't do it every day. I think it will be interesting to get to do it every day. In recent times, I go to my journal when my head is full. It's so therapeutic for me, like I mentioned earlier. I read a book, and this book reiterated some of the things I'm just mentioning about journaling. And one of the exercises at the end of the book was like, get a journal and just imagine your wedding day and just start from the beginning and just journal how that experience would be. At that particular point, I wasn't married and I just read this book and I'm like, anyway, let me just do this assignment from this book, because it was like the assignment at the end of the book. I'm even trying to remember the title of the book now. I can't really remember it. I would have recommended it, but I'll check for it. And I took my journal and I began to write. Anyways, at the end of writing, I realized that I had like 3 pages on my journal notes that I had written. And then I read it and it felt like a story. It felt interesting. And one of the things that the author, directed us to write in the book was, when you're writing your journal, when you're journaling your experience that you wish to see, what you wish to see, that you should, just don't write about the person, maybe the person you're dating with now that you're not even sure of. Just write like the husband that God will give to me as my own God ordained spouse. Just use that. And so I wrote that, and going back to the journal, I think after my wedding day, I went back to journal and I read it, and it just felt like, this is it. I described my wedding dress on the journal, and eventually, I actually ended up getting a wedding dress that was exactly what I described. Journaling helps you to also have a positive outlook of your situation. Okay, it was the COVID-19 year, and there was fear everywhere. Like, everybody was so scared about what will be. Will COVID ever end? Would we ever have a time where we go out without our nose masks and all of that? And then I attended a session, an online session, where Pastor Pojo Yemade, he was praying and leading people into a confession. I wrote down the confessions he led us to, and a paragraph from it which I see here is, I come out of COVID-19 season prosperous with fresh ideas and multiple stream of income. I am grateful to God for the power that resides inside of me. Lessons spring forth from this season. I come out with great substance, new ways of doing things that are far more efficient and delivers results in multiple forms. The landscape of my life has totally changed. God does exceedingly above every single thing I declared from the 1st of January 2020. For every negative thing was nailed onto the cross in Christ, as he made a spoil of principalities and powers. The gates of God's blessings are opened up to me. I have a testimony of the resurrection of Christ. Anyway, what am I trying to say? By journaling this, even though the situation around 2020 then and the COVID season was such a scary situation and there was fear everywhere, and in the midst of this, somebody was saying, I will come out of this season with more ideas. I will come out of this season with great substance. It looks like an illusion, but eventually we came out of the season with more ideas. I actually now began my YouTube channel then, and began to have ideas on things I could do. I learned how to do a lot of things like easily that helped my work, because I was working remotely then, things that I never knew before, which I still use now. So eventually we came out from it with great substance, and even though the horizon surrounding that situation seemed negative, by journaling our confessions, by journaling things in the affirmative, we can change our mindsets. Yes, we can begin to look at the positive things that could come out of our situation. So this, in short, this confessions is a typical example of blooming where you're planted. You might just see yourself and be like, I've been in this situation for a long time. How am I going to get out of it? I begin to tell yourself, well, I know this situation will not last forever. I know I come out of this situation a better person. I know my mind is renewed, because in this situation I'm learning, my heart is open to the wisdom that flows from God. I'm having a greater understanding of my purpose. God is teaching me things I need to know that would help me in the future. And eventually you see that even by just saying these positive things, the atmosphere surrounding you would begin to change. There would be a sort of shift in the atmosphere. It's just like if you keep saying the right things, the right things would keep happening to you. You just call forth those blessings. So again, journaling is good. I love this my diary because it says journey. So it's just like you're documenting your life's journey, you're documenting your experiences. There are experiences that we go through in life that are so significant and they are so great, and then we let it pass through. If you journal, you can take out lessons from such experiences. You get out of a relationship and you're thinking about getting quickly into the next relationship. Have you sat down to just journal, like, why did this relationship end? What are the things I as a person did that contributed to this relationship coming to an end? If I'm to go into another relationship, what can I do better? What are the lessons I have learned? Journaling it, like stating it, okay, I learned that I should be a kinder person. Just journaling your lessons, so that when next another guy is wooing you and is talking to you, what are the lessons you learned about the kind of person you should date, that you shouldn't date this sort of person again. So now when another person is coming to you and person is showing such characteristics, you can easily go back to your journal and be like, oh, okay, I said I will not date somebody that is not born again. I will not date somebody that does not have the mind of Christ. I will not date somebody that smokes and drinks. Okay, and this person is showing these characteristics. Okay, so I'm not going to make this mistake twice. I won't be going this path. So it's easier, so that before you even let the love start to brood in your heart, you're seeing the reasons. It's clear, it's really obvious on why you shouldn't go ahead. And yes, I think with this I've come to the end of this episode on journaling. I hope I've been able to share some insights on how journaling can help you bloom where you have been planted. Thank you. And if you love the content I make, please consider subscribing to my channel. You can just hit the subscribe button. Also leave a comment in the comment section and like this video, share it with your friends and loved ones, and bye. See you again in another episode.